Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest A12 Lions Learning webinar. This has been great. We've been doing a webinar pretty much every week since the beginning of April when we had to cancel our traditional Lions Learning weekend. So our Governor Jamie insisted that we pivot and still make sure that the learning happens. So we're so excited that you're able to join us this evening. And the webinar tonight is making a good first impression, which was planned to be occurring at the A12 Lions Learning Weekend. So we're excited to have past District Governor Nancy Watt-Durant. Nancy is an accomplished trainer in District A12 and around the world, as she's facilitated webinars for Lions Clubs International, Lions University, and as well as teaching face-to-face at various institutes that are put on by Lions Clubs International. So it's a great treat to have Nancy here along with us tonight to go over her webinar, Making a Good First Impression. So I'd like to start off first off with just a little bit of the interface of the GoTo webinar software in case you haven't participated in a webinar before. So on your screen, you'll have your GoTo webinar control panel. And if you don't see it, there's a little orange arrow over to the right side of your screen probably. And if you just push that little orange arrow, that GoTo webinar control panel will pop out. If it disappears again, just click the view button at the top where it says auto hide the control panel and uncheck that. And that should solve many of your problems so you can see that little control panel. So in the control panel, the top half of it is the audio pane. So when you logged into the webinar tonight, you were able to select whether you wanted to use your computer audio, a headset, speakers, microphone, whatever on your computer, or you could choose to phone into the webinar by selecting the phone call button. So that's all under your audio tab. So you just have to select that and the device that you're using for your speaker or headphones. Under that panel, you'll see a question panel, and if you can't see it, you just have to push that little arrow to pop it out, and you'll be able to see it. And in there, you can type a question to me, and I'll be working kind of behind the scenes, being the kind of roadie or groupie or whatever for Nan tonight. So I'll be taking those questions. Some of them I'll be able to answer right on the fly, but some of them we'll save for a break in the action, and we'll be able to ask those questions to Nan during the webinar. So on another aspect of the panel, and if you can just flip to the next screen. So, sorry, one more screen.
I just lost my audio again.
You raise your hand by clicking the hand button. That'll indicate that you with Nan, and if there's opportunity at that time, I can unmute you, and if you have a microphone connected or you've dialed in by phone, you'll be able to interact and ask Nan the question. It's going to be fairly interactive. She's got a few things that she wants to get some information out of you for. So it's best during a webinar to participate and so on, just like we were in a face-to-face classroom setting. So without further ado, let's give it right back to Nan. Nan.
Well, thanks very much, Chris, and hello, everyone. So glad to figuratively see you all here this evening. We're going to explore how to ensure our clubs are making a good impression. Now, some of you may remember the session I did a couple of years ago, the LLW, Give Your Club a Facelift, and it's pretty similar to what we'll be doing this evening. We all have a stake in how our clubs appear to guests and new members, so it's up to all of us as concerned club members to make sure we put our best face forward. In this session, we're going to take a close look at our clubs and explore how we can, if necessary, do some quick and easy or more extensive makeovers and keep it as painless as possible. There is a handout for this session, which you can see on your screen there. There are actually 4 handouts. So you don't need to take notes unless if you're like me, I'm a compulsive note taker, but of course it's entirely up to you. Now, as with every session, we have objectives, and these are ours for this evening. To identify the problem areas within the club, to learn simple quick fixes, develop longer-term remedies, and to identify the resources that we're going to need. We'll start with the club operations and areas of concern. Pardon me. I'm one ahead of myself. The areas of concern are club operations, our community image, how do others see us? Membership development, which is very important, of course, and as well, leadership development. We'll start with the club operations, and I'm going to ask a series of 6 questions which need to be answered honestly so we get a clear picture of how we're going to deal with the areas of concern that we've mentioned. So what does your club look like? After each of these questions, I want you to answer a yes or a no, and then we will do a little tally at the end and see where we're at. Is there a welcoming atmosphere? Are guests met at the door and introduced to everyone, or are they left standing, not knowing which way to turn? And what about our own lions, especially the new ones? So do we have a welcoming atmosphere in the club? Meetings and speakers. Now, this is sort of the meat of a lot of our problem. Are the meetings well planned and well conducted? Do the guests and the lions leave the meeting saying, wow, that was great. I really learned a lot tonight. I enjoyed that. Or do they shake your heads and say that was just a monumental waste of time? And do we have interesting and informative speakers, or are we bored to tears? Harmony among members is an issue in some clubs as well. It's easy to start sniping at each other and use put downs when we get into a bit of a heated discussion. And although we try and avoid heated discussions, it does occur from time to time. Do we have cliques in the club? What about the newer members? Are they included in any of these groups, or are they just sort of left on their own? For information about service goals, projects, fundraisers, is that readily available to the members, or do they have to go searching for it? Are there specific committees dedicated to the activities, or are they struck on an ad hoc basis? And Lions information, is it readily available? Is it shared with you? Or again, do you have to go digging for it? Do we talk about our Lions Club International Foundation on our site and other programs? Lions Quest, disaster relief. Do we promote the peace poster contest and the peace essay? Do our members know much about our history? What about Lions Day at the UN? Lions Foundation of Canada, dog guides, the list goes on and on. Now, if you can do a little quick tally here, I imagine you were just using your fingers to count on. If you had 5 yeses, pat yourselves on the back because you're in pretty good shape. If you had 3 to 4, I'd say you could use a bit of work and a little bit of tweaking along the way. If you had 0 to 2, you definitely appear to have a fair amount of work ahead of you. We need to do something right away, or we're going to be scaring away our guests and alienating our lions, and that's not what we want. Now let's look at some of the quick and easy modifications. It's always the best place to start. It can do something that you can accomplish right away and people can see that change is happening. It gets the process off on a better foot. So let's start by addressing these issues. And this is where I'm going to ask for some input from you. So as Lion Chris said, I'm going to ask the questions. If you want to answer verbally, raise your hand. Chris will unmute you. And if you don't have a mic or that capability, then type your question or your answer into the question pane. How do we create a welcoming atmosphere for new members and guests? We're waiting. This is where we always have fun in these webinars. I know it takes a while to get your thoughts in order or your questions typed. I mean, how do you go about creating a welcoming atmosphere in your club?
Well, Nan, I have a comment here, and it was make sure you have somebody greet guests at the door.
Mm-hmm. Very good. In some clubs, there actually is an official greeter, and sometimes the immediate past president takes on that responsibility, but that's a good one.
Okay.
Anything else?
Leslie says having a buddy system for new lions.
Tremendous idea, Leslie. Normally, a lot of that responsibility falls on the sponsor, of course. Sponsors can't always be there, so it's a tremendous idea to have somebody else there who will take on that responsibility and work hand in glove with the new line and the sponsor to make sure that they do become a functioning part of the club.
Oh, we have a few other ones coming in here. So Dave says, don't stay sitting down as people come in and just look at them in a strange, who are you anyway, sort of look, get up and meet people at the door.
Yeah, it is our responsibility to make ourselves available to greet people, and in addition to an official greeter.
Yeah, absolutely. And Denise, be sure to include them in the conversations during the meeting.
Definitely. That's in a lot of clubs, when you do an assessment of how people are feeling about things, you hear this from a lot of newer and younger lions that nobody listens to them. Their opinions aren't asked for. They've joined the club. They want to be there. They want to be part of what is going on. And that's all part of the welcome. And you're with us. So yes, definitely make sure they're included and respected. Opinions should be respected.
And then Jamie says every member should make an effort to greet everyone prior to the meeting.
Yes, I think that's pretty well standard in a lot of clubs that I've been to, but this day and age, we can't go around shaking hands and hugging anymore, but that doesn't mean we can't go and stay at a safe distance, at least say hello. It's going to be
Absolutely.
the new normal.
Absolutely. You can still wave from across the table or whatever,
Sure,
right? So,
sure. That's
okay, now
good.
Barb has raised her hand, so I'll just unmute her. Barb, you're unmuted.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Barb.
I just, at times in some clubs, there's been a secret greeter, and they're not always aggressive in going out and meeting people, and they kind of, hang back and stuff. And if people don't come to them before they wrap up the meeting, the secret greeter stands up. Excuse me. And if anyone hasn't shaken their hand or said hello to them, then there's a fine levied. So it's sort of a, motivation to make sure that you didn't know who the secret greeter was.
I know, and that's always fun because and I know at the end of the meeting when the secret greeter stands up and says, "Oh, Barb, you didn't say anything to me," and the first thing you're going to say is, "Oh, yes, I did." We all get caught.
That's right.
You know what's the meanest thing? Is when it's your spouse. How often do I shake Dave's hand when I go to a meeting?
That's hard, yes, but you should nonetheless because he's Lion Dave.
I make a point of it now. Well, that's great, everybody. Yeah, a lot of good things there. So we covered the official greeter. The other thing I would add to that is name tags. I know that most of us know who we are and who's in the club, but if you have guests coming in, it's difficult if they've been introduced to a half a dozen people to remember names. So if you've got the name tags on, it helps. It makes them feel more comfortable, and particularly with the new lines, because it helps them learn who the members in the club are. So.
Actually, Nan, we have an interesting comment by Leslie. She says the concept of fines is controversial in our club.
I guess, well, we can talk about that right now if you want. In some clubs, I think there has been kind of a backlash, if you will, because fines have been overdone. Is that the situation perhaps in Leslie's club, that you get fined for the silliest things and it just becomes more of a money grab than the idea of tail twister promoting fun and fellowship?
Actually, she just raised her hand, so maybe you can get a clear answer from her.
Oh,
Leslie,
okay.
Leslie, you're unmuted.
Yeah.
Leslie, are you there? Nope, guess not.
Well, maybe we're going to have a Q&A and comment session at the end, and perhaps she could.
Perfect.
Oh, she's here with us now? Good.
Oh.
Yes, no?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. What about meetings now? Do you feel your the meetings are well planned? Or do they follow an orderly progression, or what are your feelings about meetings? We have some comments there.
Okay, let's see any comments about meetings. Oh, Ruth has her hand raised. So, Ruth, you're unmuted.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, Nan.
Hi.
For me, I believe that it really is important for a meeting to go well by the president following an agenda. It sort of really keeps things, keeps things moving at the right pace, and you know, you don't get off topic that easily.
It's also, speaking of agendas, if the secretary and president get together beforehand and get that agenda out to the members, it's also another way that they can look it over. And if they have questions or concerns about any of the content, they can sort of think it over beforehand and formulate their questions and comments and make things move a little more smoothly as well. So yeah, definitely agendas. I'm a great believer in those. Any more comments on meetings, or will?
No, we had another one about agendas, saying that meetings work best using an agenda. Yeah.
For sure. Okay. Another thing that we have to be concerned about too, or can use, is Robert's Rules of Order. They should be standard. That is a standard mode of operation recommended by Lions Club International. And it does say in our Constitution and bylaws that business should be conducted in accordance with Robert's Rules. I know in other countries they use similar types of things, but in North America we just refer to Robert's Rules. And I think most of us, to some degree, use it. But it's important, I think, that the officers at least have a good working knowledge of Robert's Rules, because again, that will help your meetings go more smoothly. It's also an issue too, because sometimes you get a discussion where feelings start to run a little bit high, and Robert's Rules, if they're properly used, can keep those discussions running smoothly, keep them on a friendlier and more business-like level, if you will. So when we're talking about personal interactions, I think Robert's Rules can be very helpful there. And if any of you were on last week, Governor Jamie did a session on managing conflict, and we hope it doesn't get to the conflict stage. However, in that presentation, there were a lot of very good ideas for avoiding conflict amongst the members. And of course, that's available on our website. So if you didn't attend last week, you can go on the website and listen to it. It was very interesting and very well done. Every meeting should have a purpose, so it's interesting, should have good speakers, topics, lines information. And in a lot of clubs, one meeting a month will be dedicated to business, and the other would be dedicated to program and speakers, where you can share a lot of lines information. If you only have one meeting a month, still try and get a meeting worked in every once in a while where you've got good information and topics, so that Lions don't look on meetings as being all business, 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 and no entertainment or enjoyment. So work them in the best you can. Now, tail twisting. I said before, I don't think that tail twisting should be used as an admin fundraiser. And we touched on the issue about fines being overused. Tail twister's job is to make the meeting fun, enjoyable, and create a feeling of camaraderie in the club. So don't use tail twisting in a punitive way. Use it in a way that's going to make people laugh and enjoy themselves. Do you have any ideas of how you could have some good tail twisting and make it fun for the members? If we have any former tail twisters out there, share some of your ideas with us if you would. I'm sitting next to one and he's ignoring me.
Ruth mentions instead of fining the offenders, give out raffle tickets to the ones doing things right.
Yes, that's very good. It's a very positive way of doing it.
So that's a good one. I like that.
I've also seen kind of get out of jail free cards. You know, if you do something right at this meeting, you'll get a card that gives you a buy on fines in the next meeting. Of course, you have to remember to bring it to the next meeting, but that's another way of doing the raffle things.
Yeah. Jamie says that maybe have some fun trivia or quizzes.
That's good, Jamie, because that's a good way of working Lions information in at the same time. So, yeah,
absolutely,
I like that one. Yeah.
Leslie says we often have puzzles or quizzes with candy prizes. I'm gonna go visit that club.
You know, and then all the Lions will be on a sugar buzz. Those are good. So sure, yeah. Contest, quizzes, humor, and I think humor is the operative word there. Tail twisting is supposed to be fun. Right. How about whoops, got one ahead of myself there, but anyway, we'll just leave it there. What about communication in your club? Good, bad, or lacking? What do you do about it? So I'll just go ahead here. Some clubs use a newsletter, as we have up here, or an info sheet, an e-blast, as we do at the district, and Chris does that for our club sometimes too. Info sheets on other means of communication to keep everybody in the loop and up to date. And I think this is especially important if you have Lions who are not able to attend the meeting. Another idea is distribution of minutes as soon as possible after a meeting, so that, again, anyone who wasn't able to attend the meeting knows what went on, and if there's any action that needs to be undertaken, then they're aware of what's happening. Another thing I think is important too is that the officers of the club, president and secretaries particularly, are bombarded continuously with a lot of information from Lions International and our foundation, some of our partners that we are assisting, and that information should be distributed to everybody in the club so that they're kept in the loop as well. And here's something else I think is very important. The art of recognition. How is recognition handled in your club? Could I have some comments on that, please?
Jamie has a great comment and a big shout out to Marjorie Lewis of the Graveners Lions. Jamie says, always start and finish the meeting on a positive note and begin the meeting with recognizing a member for their service and end by thanking all the members for their service.
Absolutely. So important. Yeah. Yep. Anybody else have any comments?
Ruth said,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry, yep. Go ahead.
Simple, small gifts to those who go above and beyond. Yeah.
We've had that happen in our club. Yep. And again, it was our Marge that did that, and it was a great hit throughout the year. It's important that recognition is acknowledged right away. do not wait until the end of the year. I know we have our wrap-ups and our parties at the end of the year, and we give out a lot of major awards and recognition. But if somebody has done something exceptional, do not wait until the end of the year to recognize it. Do it immediately after the event and acknowledge the efforts of the Lions and thank them. Because you know and I know that an appreciated Lion will readily volunteer to work on the next event, and there's going to be no arm twisting needed there.
You're right, Nan. It doesn't have to be a plaque or a certificate or whatever. Just a simple thank you in front of their peers in the club and something that's genuine. I think that's really important.
I think so. And Lions will say, oh, I don't do this to get the thanks and the accolades, but I think each one of us does feel a little bit warm and fuzzy when somebody takes the time, put a hand on your shoulder and say, hey, job well done. Thanks so much. It is appreciated. Okay, well, let's move on. Those were the quick and easies. Now we're getting into the heavy stuff. These are the areas that are going to need more than quick fixes. So if your club is lacking in success in any of the categories, then an in-depth review, discussion, and revamping should be carried out. And this will require self-assessment of the club, and it's going to take time, energy, and a lot of talk and a lot of hot air and a lot of good ideas. But I think you'll find in the end that the results are definitely worthwhile. Areas of concern: low community visibility and awareness. And what is your relevance, in the community? Do you have defined service projects, or are they lacking? And what about your fundraisers? Do you have a lot of successful ones, or are they few and far between? A big issue over the years is always declining member recruitment and retention. I think it's everybody's bugbear. Another thing you can, if you're noticing member commitment is lagging and the involvement, it's difficult to get people involved in things. That's another area that you should be really aware that things are not going as well as it could. Another thing you need to be aware of is your officers and committee positions. Are the officers the same year after year and the committee chairs and members the same? Or is there a lot of movement amongst the members to keep everybody in a new and exciting and interesting job? It's worth thinking about. Suggestions and solutions, and this is where the work begins. I don't want to do it. I didn't do it. Good publicity. Use everything that is at your disposal. Social media, all the other resources to get the messages out to the public. We have Facebook, we have web pages, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, we have billboards, and we've got so many other things. I don't even know what billboards is. I'm talking through the whole of my hat here. But anyway, there are so many available sources for social media now. There should be no excuse for not getting our message out. And don't forget the local media as well. And of course, when you're using these, you're going to be highlighting your projects and accomplishments. If you look at any of the current web pages and Facebook accounts that the Lions are using, we've got pictures galore these days. It's absolutely amazing what gets put up. And I think we know more now about what's going on in A12 than we did 5 or 6, 7 years ago. It's really, really worthwhile. So get those pictures in there of the Lions working at the food bank, or delivering coffee and treats to our frontline workers, which is a cross A12 project right now. What about the Lions who are building a little library out in the park? You can also use social media to encourage community members interested in various projects to join you. This is a good way to canvas for new members. It's kind of a sneaky way of doing it, but invite them out to work with you, get to know them, and they'll get to know you. And you'll be surprised how often you will get some new members just by doing that. You can also partner with other community groups with similar interests so that you can work together in projects that are too large for one group alone. And review the service projects and fundraisers and their usefulness. This can be difficult because this is when the pet projects that you've been doing for a long time are going to come under the microscope. And this is where you might find yourself in potential conflict situations when tough decisions need to be made. Always present the facts and don't present them in an emotional way. It's so much easier when you review a project or a fundraiser. You come with facts and figures and say, well, either it's great, we should continue on because it's been successful. But if it's one that's failing, again, Lions who have started those projects have invested a lot of themselves in them over the years. And if they feel that they're going to be taken away, it can be a source of heated discussion, shall we say. Excuse me. So I said, always present facts and not feelings about the usefulness and effectiveness of the projects. Presenting everything factually and not emotionally can mean less confrontation and actually a lot more willingness to consider how you proceed. And as far as the service projects and fundraisers are concerned, are they really meeting the needs of the community? Now, it says community needs assessment here. And to find out what your community needs and thinks about the service and our relevance, we should be able to conduct a community needs assessment, and you'll find that the results are quite interesting. Citizens and community and business leaders need to be asked to assess what we're doing, make recommendations for what they believe we could be doing in the community so that we get a feel for the actual needs in the communities, what our residents think they would like, and not just what we think we should be doing for them. And of course, a strong membership and recruitment program is vital for the life and success of the club. And in A12 and the other districts, I'm sure we have a very strong global membership team that's there to help you assist in creating a strong membership and recruitment program. Lions education is also important for the life and success of the club. And again, we have a ready resource in A12 and the other district as well, and that would be the global leadership team. And what we're doing tonight is a result of the efforts of our global leadership team, who of course were responsible for planning the Lions Learning Weekend, and now they're hosting our webinar series. Has anyone heard of and does anybody use the Lions Mentoring Program? It's been around for quite a while. I think it was President Scruggs, even before he was president, developed this program. So it's not new on the block. It has been in effect for quite a while. Has anybody used it?
Nan, I used it.
Yeah.
I was a mentor to a new member of my club, and we went through the workbooks and which allowed little pieces of information to be given to the new member and activities with the new member as we moved along. You know, getting them to working towards chairing their own project or you know, visiting another club and doing things at the district level and cabinet meetings and that kind of thing. So it was a nice step-by-step process to casually bring a new member up to speed. The other thing is I had a mentor myself, and it was less formal than the mentoring program you had there, but it was still a very important part of my growth and development was using having a person who I could bounce ideas off of, and they would help guide me along. So
absolutely, and I do remember the person that you were mentoring, and I can remember how proud he was when he earned this basic certificate, and I know he was working on his advanced.
Absolutely.
And that person went on to hold a leadership role in the district, so it really does pay off, doesn't it?
Yep, absolutely does.
So thanks for that, Chris.
Jamie comments that he was trying to get it going in his club, the mentoring program 3 years ago, to no avail. But he said in District A16, mentoring has been very, very big.
And it should be, and even though, as you said, it doesn't have to be formal. Most of us, I think, have had mentors all through our Lions careers, and it wasn't that, we were following a particular program, but just having those 1, 2, or 3 individuals who have the knowledge and the history of things to help you along, to help you understand and point you in the right direction. It's tremendous.
Leslie has a good question. She says, mentor versus sponsor, what's the difference?
Well, it's pretty much the same, although sponsors are not necessarily always good mentors. It used to be, and I think this is where President Scruggs saw there was a big gap in the relationship between sponsors and new Lions. A lot of Lions are tremendous at bringing in new members. I know in the other club I was in, we had a Lion in that club who could bring new members in, 2, 3, 4 years sometimes. But because of the work he was involved in, he had very, very little time outside of Lions. So he wasn't a particularly good sponsor in that he wasn't able to spend the time fulfilling the full-time responsibility of a sponsor. So it would have been very, very helpful if we'd had a mentoring program in that club. So good point. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I've always thought that some sponsors are great recruiters, but horrible teachers.
That's it too. Yeah, not everybody's a good teacher for sure.
so sometimes people are better at teaching and supporting and helping a person develop than they are at attracting and bringing new people into a club. So let those recruiters be recruiters and let the teachers be the teachers.
Definitely. Well, there's a place for everybody in the club. Everybody's got a different area of expertise. So let's get in there and share them. Okay, officers and committee chairs. I feel very, very strongly that officers should be elected every year. Committee chairs should be chosen every year. And as far as members on the committee, depending on how your club operates, either ask for volunteers to sit on committees, or the officers can appoint people to fulfill those member positions in the chairs committees. Sorry, it's been a bad day. International strongly recommends that we elect officers every year. I know in some clubs, you may have them in for a 2-year period. Probably that's the longest before they move on and do something else. Smaller clubs, I know it's difficult getting officers and committee chairs, so there are ways that you can work around that. But in some of the larger clubs, if you've got 15, 20 Lions, there should be no problem having officers elect to do the positions every year, and the same with committee chairs. We mentioned earlier that an in-depth look at ourselves and how the club operates is going to be very important. And we do have a tool available called the Club Quality Initiative, formerly the CEP. And in that, there are a lot of ways that you can assess the effectiveness of your club and do it in a meaningful way. The Club Quality Initiative includes the self-assessment questionnaire, and I think we mentioned self-assessment earlier, and that's the how are your ratings. This is useful in giving you a clear picture of the club, its operations, projects, fundraisers, and a lot of other topics. And I tell you, it does take a fair amount of time to complete the CQA process, but it's definitely worth the time and effort. A few years ago, it was about 3 or 4, I think, we had a real push on to do the Club Excellence process. That was the CPE, which is now the Quality Club Initiative. And I can't remember the percentage of clubs in A12, but it was pretty high. I think we were in about the 60 or 70% range, if I remember correctly, that clubs had gone through it. And I think that on the whole, they would say that it was a very good exercise for them. And I know in a couple of clubs, they had some pretty outstanding successes with community projects, because it was just before the 100th anniversary and everybody was looking for a big community project. And a couple of the clubs, because of doing this particular assessment and also doing the community needs assessment, came up with their signature centennial project. So I'd be interested in seeing us get this going again, because personally, I think there's a lot of advantage to it. You feel that way too, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, the new Club Quality Initiative, it's designed. It's much better for self-directed reflection on what's going on in your club, whereas the original CEP. Generally, you brought others from outside the club in, and it's all about building a culture in the club of talking about what's right in the club and what needs work, and having open, honest conversations. And I think that's powerful to change the culture in a club by having something like the Club Quality Initiative.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the new format, as you say, it does lend itself more to carrying this out on your own rather than having an outside coordinator. But you can still have somebody from outside if you feel uncomfortable doing it yourselves. So we did have a fair number of people qualified in the district to be the leaders. So that is still there. And last but not least, my favorite topic, is a lot of you probably know, our clubs operate according to the Lions Club International Standard Club Constitution and Bylaws, or if you have your own club constitution and bylaws, that's how you are governed. You should be aware, though, that even if you have your own CBL, it is still under the aegis of the standard Lions Club International Constitution and Bylaws. It's really the parent document, and our own constitution and bylaws flow from that. As I said before, officers at the very minimum should know it's in the document. And many clubs also use a policy manual. I know that our club has had a policy manual for a number of years, and it's a good reference tool. It expands on the duties of each of the committees that we have in the club, the responsibilities of the officers, talks about our dues and how we use them, all manner of things that are not appropriate to be discussed in a constitution and bylaws, but it's more a how-to manual for your club. And another thing I find very useful is the motion log. And it was a number of years ago, I was teaching the secretary's course, and Shirley Day, bless her heart, she's no longer with us. She mentioned that their club had started creating a motion log, and what they did was just record the substantive motions that had been made in the club, not the, we've approved the minutes of the last meeting, things like that. But when a motion was made that was going to be a major decision about a fundraiser or where funds were going, or anything like that, then the motion log was set up to record all of these motions according to date and topic. And believe me, they are a wonderful reference book. If you have ever had to go back through minutes to try and find out a motion on ABC, believe me, it's an awful lot easier if you got a motion log. Because I can recall at my other club, we had a lawsuit going on, and I had to go through 10 years of minutes to try and find a particular resolution that never did appear. But anyway, if it had a motion log, I could have saved myself 3 weeks of work. So think about it. Multiple district A has one. Our own district A12 has one, and I think anybody who's used it probably agree that it's one of the more useful manuals you could have in the club. Does anybody, other than the ones I've mentioned, anybody use a motion log or things like that, or is it something you've always wondered about?
Barb actually has a question about it. She says, is it the secretary's responsibility to fill out the motion log, or is it the Constitution Bylaws person, or?
Depends. At the district level, it is one of the jobs that I do is Constitution and Bylaws. It's mandated in my job description. But as far as the club is concerned, it's entirely up to the club who does it. It would make more sense if a secretary does it, but it doesn't have to be the secretary. Again, in our club, I'm not the secretary, but I do the motion log updates. So it's just whatever you decide, whatever's going to work for you. I think they're worthwhile though, don't you, Chris?
Well, I think so, because I can remember that time when we had our finance meeting at our club, and we started burning old papers and stuff, including minutes. So we still have it all in the motion log, so we're okay.
Glad I wasn't there. Yep. Okay. Well, we want to have some time for some questions and answers at the end, so I think that's the sum total of the presentation there. I just want to review the resources with you, because this is what everything is based on. Most of it comes from Lions Clubs International website, lionsclubs.org. And there you find, under resources for members, all sorts of things. Now, part of the handout that you've got, although you can get them online as well, very useful reference material for you. Your Club Your Way, or Blueprint for a Stronger Club, a couple of tremendous documents. There's a little information included in the handout on the Club Quality Initiative. And then Lions Mentoring Program, you can get that on the website as well, the international website. Leadership development, membership development. We are so fortunate here in A12, and I would hope in the other districts as well, that we have excellent leadership in our global leadership team and our global membership team. And for those of you who are not aware of the chairs, the global leadership is Chris Lewis, and our global membership is Ruth Roberts, who's on as an attendee tonight. But Ruth does a lot of presentations for us too. So, and as I say, I'm sure that the other districts have excellent leadership in these areas as well, because they're so important. You can also sign up for online courses through Lions International through My Lion. You go to the member login and then you click on Learn, and there are all sorts of online courses there that you can sign up for. So don't be afraid to get involved in that. And of course, one of my favorites is Lions University, which I've been involved in for quite a while. And that's lionsuniversity.org. And for those of you not already enrolled in Lions University, all you need to do is go on the website and register, and this will give you access to all the courses. And the beauty of it is that you can take any course that you want. You don't have to do them in any particular order. You don't have to just go through the bachelor's courses and then go to the master's and then the doctorate. You can choose a course in any of those 3 areas that interest you. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to work towards getting those designations if you don't want to, but if you do, it's certainly worthwhile. All this information, the resource information, is included in the handout as well. So let's take a look back and see how we did. We were going to identify problems in the areas within the clubs, learn some simple quick fixes, develop some longer term remedies, and to identify the resources. And I think you'll agree, particularly with your input, which I certainly appreciated tonight. I think we've met them. So now is your opportunity for some questions and comments. We have about 6 or 7 minutes remaining in our time slot. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, again, raise your hand or type it into the question pane, and we'll handle as many as we can.
Okay, so Leslie was having some audio problems earlier. She had an earlier question about tail twisting being maybe a little controversial. So I don't know if she's able to answer now. Leslie, you're unmuted. So Leslie, oh, can we hear you?
I'm not hearing her, are you?
Nope, she says it's still not working. Well,
I'll tell you, sorry.
Go ahead.
Leslie, here's a suggestion for you. You have an email for Chris, I would suspect. My email is on the handout. If you want to just fire off a question by email, see if we can help you with it and maybe point you in the direction of some good resources. Would that work? I hope.
Yep, or she can enter it in the question pane too. So if she has anything further to add to it, so.
Sure.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, she said just more of a comment. She says her club has had some members state they don't appreciate fines, and I've heard that before out of especially some younger members too, who find it a little off-putting a bit.
It's a bit of an anachronism in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it's and there's nothing saying you have to have a tail twister either.
No.
So if your club makes a decision that they would rather do without it, then that's a decision you can make. Club operations are pretty much under the control of the club members. So if there's an aspect there that's troubling people, you can have a chat about it and come to some sort of conclusion about either improving the way it's done or doing away with it. It's entirely up to the members of the club.
Yep, absolutely. She said, yeah, so as a result, her club has switched to more positive reinforcement and are no longer finding anyone.
Oh, good. So you found your own solution then.
Perfect.
Thanks for sharing that.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
We had a few comments about speakers, and people were saying about making sure you give your speakers a specified time limit, and or like no more than 15 minutes. I answered that and said, well, past district governors don't know how to speak less than 15 minutes, so I don't know if that's acceptable or not.
It's a failing.
Yeah, it's a failing. So there's all sorts of questions about that, and I think that's pretty important, making sure you have a good time frame. You don't want a meeting going on forever. So.
No, and when you're excuse me, looking for suggestions, there are lots of online suggestions about how to run meetings, how to organize them, and those points are definitely in there. When you have speakers, it should be clear the topic, who they're addressing, how long you want them to speak, what time in the meeting, and things like that. Just the courtesies that we would extend to each other.
Okay, so Ruth has her hand raised, so she's unmuted. Ruth, go ahead.
Thank you, Chris. Nancy, thank you so much for this webinar tonight. It's really great. I learned a few things out of it, and I appreciate it. I also wanted to just talk a little bit about the motion log that you were mentioning. I know when I was secretary, I did one each year, and as I added to it, I would print it out and put it at the front of my secretary's book. So for that year, it was really easy for me to look. And at the back of the book, I had last year's. So if it was something that was being carried over, I could, again, easily reference it because they're on a couple of pages printed out for me.
That's a good idea. Now, in our club with the motion log, it's updated and after every meeting, and especially the online meetings. Boy, we had a lot of them this year. So that's updated and that's sent to the executive committee so that they have it at hand. And I have right back to 2014 here, actually, in the motion. The parent document I have goes right back to 2014. And it's occasionally you do have to go back a little farther, but it's nice to know that you've got that information. So.
Absolutely.
When I was president or secretary in a club, I always had the motion log handy with me. Yeah. Good thoughts, Ruth. Thank you.
Okay, so there was a question about the mentoring program and whether should you do mentoring at the meetings, before the meetings, after the meetings?
You can do it at any time. Sometimes during a meeting, particularly when you have a lot of newer members, we tend as Lions to speak in code, and newer members don't really know what's going on. So if you can have a quiet little, oh yes, a PDG is past district governor whose power has done gone. That's what PDG means. LCI, LCIF, things like that. But some mentor-mentee relationships, they will set aside a little bit of time, maybe outside of a meeting, to go for a coffee and discuss things. So it's whatever works with the particular partnership, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie made a comment that the best impression Lions could have on their community with respect to attracting new members would be their visibility and meaningful service.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, this is what's going on right now with the food for the frontline workers. Excuse me, frog. That's being highlighted in all our social media platforms. And I think you people are doing a good job on that. I'm not a social media person myself, but I do look at it.
Okay, so we have a question from Leslie. Are there resources for doing a community needs assessment?
That is included in the, yes, it's part of the package of the Club Quality Initiative. Those resources are in there, the community needs assessment and the how are your ratings. That's all in there. There's also information on that in Your Club Your Way and Blueprint for a Better Club. So, and it's also available on the LCI website.
You know, and I always think the key of doing an effective community needs assessment is simply the concept is to just talk to your community leaders about what your community really truly needs, and whether it's a 20-page questionnaire or a 20-question questionnaire, or just picking up the phone and having a good conversation with the mayor and the teacher and the principal and church leaders and so forth. And that's, I think, how you really find out what the needs are in your community, right?
Mm-hmm. So you can do it that way, and you can do it with a formal questionnaire as well. So it's whatever works with your club and the particular group of people that you're approaching.
Okay, we have Ruth has raised her hand. Ruth, you're unmuted.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention that the handouts, for those of you that aren't aware, are in your control panel. And if you click on each one, it will download it to your particular machine. Because I know some people probably aren't aware of that. So you need to click on the handout section and then click on each handout individually, in order for them to get downloaded.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Ruth.
we have one
because
person
I
who's
had
having,
forgotten that. Yeah.
yeah, one person's having a hard time downloading them, but they're using Internet Explorer, which isn't
Oh,
supported by GoToMeeting anymore. So we're just going to email them out to that
that's
person.
good.
So
Thanks, Chris. Well, they say start on time, end on time, and I think we're pretty close to the half hour. So I would just like to say thank you all very, very much for participating tonight, and especially thanks to Chris for tutoring an idiot at 5 o'clock this afternoon so I could get through this thing. I'd never do it without you, Chris. And I'm going to turn it over
it
to
wasn't
you.
that hard, was it?
No, but you know me, I don't like this stuff. I'm going to turn it over to you now to do a wrap up.
Okay, perfect. So thanks so much, Nan. That was excellent. I think the attendees and I know myself became reminded of some of the resources and so on that maybe we haven't touched on as much in the past. And I know that looking at your club in a holistic way will really make your club more attractive to outside members. It will make you more relevant in the community, and I think it really will engage and get your members even more committed. So I think that's great. So I'm really glad that you took the time from your evening to put on this webinar tonight.
And you can see here we have a couple of webinars coming up.
Yeah, we do.
And
Next Wednesday, Dave Durant, who is our district historian and on the Canadian Lions Centennial Committee, is going to do a little bit of a presentation on 100 years of Lionism. So I think that'll be a great session on next Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. And then the following Thursday, May 28th, we have Monica Hopkins, who is the Leo advisor for the brand new Georgian Bay Leo Club, which is hugely active, hugely involved. I think they chartered with probably 25 young people, and she's going to be doing a webinar on engaging youth through the Leo program and how you can really make a difference in young people's lives. So that'll be great. And then we're just setting up the dates for June, so we'll be able to do our president's training and some of those sorts of things as well coming up in June. So in order to access those webinars, you can go to District A12's website, a12lions.org, and on there we have a calendar of all the upcoming webinars, as well as links to many of the recordings of the previous webinars. So those are great to be able to check in on if you weren't able to attend one of the other webinars. So we'd encourage you to go visit that and register for the next ones. And of course, share it with the members of your club too. You know, it doesn't cost anything to sit down for an hour or so and view and learn something. So I really want to thank you all for coming. And again, last thank you for Nan for everything she did tonight. And everyone, I just want you to stay safe and hope to see you next week on the next webinar. Take care.
thank you, Chris. Good night, everybody.